goes. What's up, YouTube? Big Dubs. We're back again. Right where I left off, basically. I was right in the middle of basically the garage and putting in the fueling station, and we had saved our files basically. So if you had closed them, same thing that we had done before. It was closed. We had opened up our editor and just come back in, click on here, and we would be back in our map. Okay. So we had just got our garage in, and we had we explained adding a model. We had explained the locators. I explained all these other little tabs a little bit. So we talked about materials just a hair, and we're basically setting up our map. So this is the necessary files that you need basically to get a garage in the game, and like we could throw these files in the game and this map would load basically right now. So, and you can see that this garage is hovering really bad back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and bury that up a little bit. But if you noticed that what the deal is that the front's buried now too. So I'm gonna bring this back up, but we're gonna rotate it up a hair. I'm gonna slide that back down. Sorry. So that if we look back here, everything's under, and it could be rotated maybe up here, right there. Yeah, there we go. So, and raise it up just here. And I could lower the geometry right here if I wanted to, but I'm not going to be picky about it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah, this is somewhat the basic concept of the files that you need basically to get into the game. Only thing that is missing right now is a truck. So once again, I said you could come over here and you could do add truck, but I like to just do it out here. Add truck. And I'll explain to you about some of these options real quick. On the right hand side, you'll get this little option menu over here. You could basically set up a truck, and it's going to allow me to pick whatever truck I want to start out the game with. But fair warning, don't pick these like K5 Blazer or something like this. Like, pick something generic that everybody's got. If you don't, then you're going to have to do requirements of people wanting or having the downloads. So I don't do typically those. I typically try to pick like the Karaz. One of the trucks is just in the game constantly, always, like the UAZ 469. Typically, what I turn my trucks into. I have a theme truck that I use as well. So, for me, let's move this truck over. Place it up here. I use the A351. It's not on here right now. Typically, I use this truck as my theme truck. And I usually go down here too. The these options. Like sometimes you can add like the trailer, the add-ons. So you know you just press on one of these, and you know you could add on some of the stuff that goes onto the truck. You could go ahead and add it on, customize your truck. You know, however you want it to like appear when you drove up on the truck. Um, but in order for the map to fully work, you need one truck, at least one truck on the game to spawn into. And you want to set that truck to not locked, and you want to set it to active. So my first truck, truck one, come down here. I want to set this one to true. I want to set it to active. So this is the truck in the field of view that I'll spawn into when the game first loads. Okay, and then this truck, you know, I want to set as active. I want to set it as false, but you can set whether if it's locked or not. So typically I set my this truck locked because this is my rescue truck in my game or my maps. So that's typically what I use there. But if you don't want it locked and you just want like another truck slot, I would set it to false. So now you have two truck slots whenever you spawn in, or whenever you load this game up into the actual physical game, you'll have two truck options. So all right, and that's all you need basically to publish a map. You know, this would look like a crappy map because there's nothing on it, but that's all you need really to make a map and to copy the files into the map folder, and away you go. But nobody would want to drive that. So let's add some more things in here. And what I'd like to do next is materials, usually. Or no, let's do geometry. Geometry is cool. So, how geometry works is pretty simple, like I was saying in the other video. You know, the more I turn it to the right, the higher the land goes. The bigger the circle, the more land that'll get rows. So typically I like to make sections of my corners of my maps and like start on a corner and work my way from like this corner over to this corner to that corner to that corner or something, you know. How you do it is up to you, but to each his own. So this is just how I do it, you know. You can do it however you want really, but I like to like come in here basically, and I like to start making some mountains, you know, is what I'm gonna do. And right now I'm probably upsetting some of the map makers, but this is actually a pretty large hill right now. And you think it's not, like you're just like looking at this, you're like, oh, this is pretty small. Like this is actually really large hill in the game, honestly, like right now. But you know, I make a lot of mountainous places, so like my terrain's a lot higher usually, except for like my first map was a little bit more or less like it was on the hillier side. But you'll just basically continue raising the terrain as high as you want it to make a mountain. So, and I'm just gonna raise up a bunch of these little hills real quick, super fast. Because I want to show you there's some things that happens to this. So, and you can see that the more I hold it in one spot, it will raise that spot. So you kind of want to finesse the brush around, like circling, like I do, to kind of like raise all the land up around it at the same time. Otherwise, like if I just hold it right here and like just wiggle it around, it just makes this weird like dome, like goofy looking dome thing. So I don't try to do that often, and also that creates a problem too. And I'm gonna go ahead and show it to you if I do this. What it's gonna do is it's gonna cause the map to stretch until it's fully like stretched out until it hits the top of the map. See? And it's like flat plateaued. You don't want that. You never want your map to hit the maximum height like that. And like this will be like a huge mountain. Like right now, this would look like Simba's Rock or something. But you know, you don't want that because what happens is two, you can't get up here and drive anymore. Like the map won't let you drive up here, and you know, it just looks goofy, honestly. So, and I'm trying to make my stuff look real. So don't do that. Um, and to fix that, you just lower it. Um, and by the way, 5 on this value scale, 5 is dead center. So like if I do 5, it's not doing anything, but anything under 5 is going to be like lower in the ground. So if you want to make subtle changes, like 4.5 is a good subtle change to something. But if I want to go max change, 0. Same way on the other side. So if I want to make a subtle change of like lower, like raising land, 59, 56. If I want to make a huge change, 82, 86, 90, 1.0. So, and it's kind of the same way in flattening as well. So like flattening the land is the same. It kind of helps me smooth out some of this stuff. So like I'm gonna fix this by flattening it actually. And you can see like with flattening down like that, like I can literally like reshape this and like bring it. What is it? It's doing is it's trying to match the terrain like below it. So it's like mashing down on that big hill. See how it kind of just like mashed it down? So that's one way to fix like a sharp mountain, by the way. There's multiple ways. I could have lowered the ground. Like I could have just did a lowering like this and just lowered it like that. But, there's ways to fix it. So, and I'm just going to sprinkle in a couple of more little hills real quick while I'm doing this. So, I'm turn this up. So, I'm going to make a couple more little mountain places here. Turn this section into one. Got a mountain range here. Rolling hills. Make this one. Another thing too is you don't want people to come to the boundaries, so I try to make the boundaries inaccessible to everybody, whether it be trees or just stuff in general. But so, and I try to make these like as tall as I can without like getting it to flatten out, because I'm trying to make some mountains here. So, and we're going to make 2 little train types real quick. So, we'll do one section over here, the mountain area. I'm out on this video. 14. Cool. Not trying to be super picky about it all. And you'll want to be detailed about all this, as you can be. But just for general purposes, showing y'all stuff, I'm just gonna do what I can real quick. So, and you can see I'm messing this up right here, but I want to do that on purpose. I want to try to create something funky here to show y'all how to fix some things. So we'll do that. Alright, cool. Now, I made all the height geometry changes that I want to make. to this map. So let's reload this guy. So typically I just click off, and it's going to save all your changes right there. So right after this, always just hit rebuild terrain, guys. Just learn to rebuild terrain constantly. And the following process I do is I hit save. So rebuild terrain, wait for it to do its thing, and this will slow down the more stuff I add, and save. Sometimes I double save just to make sure. So yeah, I just wanted to look at that. Alright, next thing we're going to add is maybe some roads. And to do that is by materials. And like I was telling y'all before, 3.0 is the size of a truck road. And typically I can use a truck to kind of model things off of. I'll kind of add one and delete one to kind of reference, like, how deep is the water? How deep is, like, you know, or how big is this model looking? Or how is, like, this big as this rock? Or whatever, you know. But we got to cover materials is that there's some weird things about it. I found that if you add another material and you try to overlap two materials, it's going to override, and it'll cause you some weird issues. And I can show you what I mean, because what we're going to do is right now, I have it set up as there's grass everywhere, right? But underneath the grass, there's dirt. Okay? So if you want to add grass, you would set it to 1, and it literally adds grass. But if I don't want grass anymore, I would take away the grass. I set it back to 0. So like if I do this, this is going to give us dirt. All right here, basically. And I don't want that to be dirt. So anywhere I want dirt. Where our trucks are at. And be like a dirt path coming out of the garage here. And this is our dirt area. Cool. Right? All this is dirt. So now if I click off this, I'm going to literally change this to dirt. I'm like, oh, sweet. Dirt now. So I got grass and I got dirt everywhere. So, this is how you start making trails as well. So, if I want to make a trail somewhere else, I would basically just like continue on out this path, and I would be like, oh, let's go back this way, or, you know, wherever. 2 roads, basically. And you'll see that you get little paths going everywhere. I'm like, cool. So that's how you do materials, basically. But the thing is when you start adding multiple materials, and once again you try to copy. I try to copy on my second material the same concept. So you want your grass to be, I think that's how you do this, because when you start adding more than one material, it gets a little more complicated. So I think we want the bottom to be, let's do rock slope, because you'll have rock slope. Yes. And then we want the top to be grass. Grass. Yes. Okay. So we got our dirt, and you want to make this hillside over here. Work, right? Basically, like you want to make this a Rocky Mountain looking slope. To do that right now, it's I could come over here and I could paint this, and you would think, oh, okay, this is going to turn this into rock. No, it doesn't. What it does is like it just coats it back in grass, and that is because it's there. It is just not understanding what you want to do. In order for you to do a second material on top of another material, you have to do something called opacity. And opacity works in a couple of ways. It lets you select blocks at one time, but it takes that whole terrain block over. And then it allows you to tell the surface that there is a material here, but I want to apply the second material where this blue area is. And that's my second material here. So, technically, if I click off of this, it should show my rock slope, and it does. And you're like, oh, cool, this is really neat. But, you know, I got a rock slope out of land, but here's the thing about it is that it creates these jagged edges on these boxes. And that is because this terrain box here is the last spot that the opacity took over. And this terrain box is not taken over by that opacity. So that the rock slope is not coming over on this side. And the same thing on this terrain block. See? That's one problem I've found with having dual things. And to fix that, you would be over here like this. You would just cover in all these. See, this one fixed itself. But this one, however, for some reason, did not. And it would want me to basically just come back in here and... oh, that's me on the dirt. So, like, another thing is you have to set the dirt. The dirt is the second layer, the rock layer, that I want to use, by the way. The opacity is what allows it to show up. So, I need my dirt, and then if I do green, it's going to take away what I had there. See? But if I do 0, it's going to add it back again. And that was why a while ago that was not showing up, is because I hadn't put dirt on that other side over there. And I had put it on this other side already. So, that's why. So, explaining that. But this doesn't cause the issue, really. You can fix this, but where this starts becoming a problem is when you start adding this material into another terrain block, like this one. So, if we wanted to add that same rock here, I would have to add opacity first, and then I would have to go to my dirt, and I would add some dirt. I'd add in some rock here. We're going to make this a little rock section. And you see what happens here? It literally overwrites my material. And you're like, oh wow, I got a big gap here now. And that is because I put that opacity on there. So you're like, okay, well, just take off the opacity in that one little area. So that's what I do. Just take that off. But you see here, it creates an issue still. Technically, I'm not in that terrain block, but butting up to it, it will not fade the dirt here. See that? So be careful about materials, adding two materials at once. You could fix that too by doing randomize, I found. So if we do randomize, we do all this in a random, you can kind of paint the opacity, but it still doesn't help you. So like if I do 0, see, I can kind of like paint in the opacity in areas, really. It allows me to paint that area in, but still, it's going to understand that it's on this terrain block's a second material, and it's going to overwrite your other material. Needless to say, is just be careful about putting in multiple materials in places, because it tends to mess up things. So if you're going to do double materials, make sure to keep them away from your base material. And then don't add in 3 materials, because if you do that, randomize, it gets even more trickier than 2, honestly. So just be aware of materials. They're kind of somewhat bothersome. Just make sure you keep them separated like this, way apart, so they're nowhere near each other on the map. So, but if I wanted to make this on into another material over here, or dirt, have this into dirt, I could literally just keep on going through and making this a big old rock slope facing edge over here, like that. See, kind of makes it look rockish. So that's how you make trails. And materials, basically. So where are we at on editor? 27 minutes. I got 3 minutes left. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and probably stop on this one for this third part, and we're going to come back and we cover geometry, cover materials, cover locators. We got a few models from our garage. Let's do an overlay real quick before this video is capped. Next thing is you can add an overlay. Overlays, like I was saying, you got just a couple of options. You can do a grass road, dirt slope, a couple of different roads, basically. I typically use dirt path, dirt road. A dirt road is pretty big, so be careful. This is like a regular dirt road, like you're going to use like a logging road. So some of this stuff is pretty big. Root mass, you got a highway, poles, wires, whatever. Grass road's pretty cool, so I'll stick with that. Like I said, you get a little point system, and always Mudrunner puts in the 0 point on the left, usually. So word to advise, when I first started, I was like, oh, it's going to be over here, 0 is going to be over here. No, it's on the left-hand side always, usually. Even if I had a river, it's going to be on the left-hand side. Those are the 2 kind of point system items that I can think of. But 1 is always going out, 0 is the first part. So same thing on these, man. If you try to lay them over top of here on 2 materials, it'll mess it up, but single material, it works just fine. So be careful about laying over on a material like that. but what it does is it kind of lays in a road for you. And if you come back in here and you right click on the end of the point, you can get some options. You can do an add before, which will add it before the one. You can do add after one. You can do update, reset width, fly to, or delete. Typically, if you add after, it'll allow you to add it. And then if you click over here on this little square, I can move it left or right in freeform, or you can actually adjust it with X and Z position. So, but if I keep on adding these, stretch them out, and you can basically just kind of create your road this way. This is a simple way to make roads. Not the only way to make roads. A lot of the other guys will use the dirt material like I showed you before. But this kind of takes a little more work, but I like it because it adheres to the ground really well too. So we're just going to make this kind of go along here like this. And we'll just make that die out, kind of. So what that does is that puts in a road for me. So once again, I'm going to rebuild terrain. And we're going to save the files. And we're going to pause my video for this. And I'll catch up with y'all in just a second.